Shivaya. Good morning. So today I'm going to speak about Hatha Yoga and meditation, or where comes meditation in the system of Hatha Yoga. First of all, I have to say that Hatha Yoga is really not different from meditation. Meditation is what we call Raja Yoga. Actually, Raja Yoga is samadhi, which is the perfection and meditation, the deep meditation. And Hatha Yoga is considered as a step ladder, a stairway to Raja Yoga, to meditation. So the real purpose of Hatha Yoga is to facilitate our meditation, make it more easy, to put us on that state more naturally. Because what happens is the mind is very difficult to control. The mind is full of samskaras, deep vasanas, deep-seated impressions. It's so distracted all the time, so outgoing all the time, that just trying to bring the mind in and keep it quiet is extremely difficult. But the mind is controlled by the prana. See, mind and prana always go together. It's like two sides of the same coin. Wherever the prana goes, the mind goes. Wherever the mind goes, the prana goes. They're always together. So in the same way, I explained some days ago that you have a machine like a fan, something, it runs because it has electricity there. If there is no electricity, the motor will not run. So, by controlling the electricity, that's the way we control the motor of the fan. So we can make the fan go faster, go slower, according to how much, electricity, how much voltage we put into it. And we can even stop completely the machine by turning off the electricity. So like that, all this agitation of the mind has a corresponding agitation of our prana. So Hatha Yoga is really the science of how to work with the prana. Most people think Hatha Yoga is the physical yoga. And they only know yoga from the level of the asanas. Sometimes not even practice properly asanas, but as a physical exercise mostly. But there is, of course, if you practice asanas, it's an excellent form of physical exercise, no doubt. You get a lot of physical benefits and benefits of physical exercise from it, no doubt. But its purpose is much way beyond that. It is really a way to meditation. So, Hatha Yoga begins, first of all, with the yamas and niyamas, which are the ethical, moral laws, rules, how to live a life in a dharmic way, how to purify your karma by doing the right kind of actions and avoiding everything that is harmful. See, first of all, you need to have a good karma to be able to practice Hatha Yoga, any form of yoga. For example, you wanted to be here to take this in. You must have done some good karma that allow you to do this. Because many people might want to do it and cannot do it for many reasons. Maybe they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they don't have the problems to take care, family, this and that. They never find the time. People say, one day I would like to take the TTC, but in 10 years, 15 years, they haven't taken it. One day I will do that, and moment never comes. So, even to have the opportunity, to take the time, the place, and especially to find the right teachers, it's the result of your past karma. So, without purifying your actions, without purifying your mind and actions in your daily life, you cannot even start practice yoga. Then you have studied already the yamas and niyamas more in detail. Then the next step is the asanas. Even before the asanas, there is another preparation, which is the diet. It's a diet that is suitable for the practice of yoga that will help you to progress in the practice. There is another diet which is not going to help you, it's going to create obstructions in your practice of yoga. For example, drinking alcohol, smoking, etc., and eating meat, certain very exciting foods. All these will make the deeper levels of Hatha yoga not possible. You may still practice some asanas on a certain level, like a physical exercise, but you will not be able to go further than that. So the diet is important preparation. And then comes the asanas, which is the first level to start to control, because the body is an expression of the mind. See, this body is reflect what's happening in our mind. It is the presence of the subtle body that activates the physical body. So in yoga we start from the gross, especially in Hatha yoga, we start from the gross level into the more subtle and more subtle. So the grossest level is our physical body. So the real first practice is to try to make the physical body be completely quiet and completely relaxed and at ease, with no any kind of tension, or any kind of discomfort, and be able to remain completely quiet for a long period of time. In order to reach that state, you need to practice many of the different asanas in order to just get physically fit to do this practice. So you're going to need to have certain flexibility in your hips, and your knees, and your back, and be able to sit straight. And you cannot do just meditation in any posture. So if you just lie down on the floor, you can get some sort of relaxation perhaps, but not really meditation. Because meditation requires a high level of attention and concentration. And if you're just lying down or leaning against the back of your chair or on a sofa or so, you most likely fall in a kind of sleepy state rather than a very awake state. Meditation is really about awakening, it's not about falling asleep. It's a big difference between relaxation and meditation. In relaxation, relaxation is needed for meditation. You cannot meditate until you are not relaxed. Because if you are full of tension, you're uncomfortable, you're thinking all the time, you are disturbed by your tensions. Therefore, you cannot have a proper concentration. That's why we need to take care of the tensions, release the tensions, and achieve the capacity of deep relaxation. So we do that, you've all been practicing this, doing a combination of asanas with breathing and relaxation at the same time. You get to activate your parasympathetic nerves, which helps you to release a lot of tension, and you get to balance finally that the effort of the relaxation, how to be awake and be relaxed at the same time. So this comes with the practice of asanas. Finally, you are able to achieve one asana that you can really sit straight, quiet, and just be there for a long period of time, for some hours, without having to think about it. You can just forget about it. Because the purpose in the asanas is that eventually you forget your body. So your body doesn't give you any problem anymore. All the time we are distracted by our body. There's always sensations here and there, and pains and discomforts. We have to be moving all the time. We're holding chronic tensions, and makes us feel tired, and so this obstacle can be removed by a regular practice of different set of asanas, especially 12 basic asanas plus some others. They will give that benefit. But the purpose is really to achieve one steady posture. Sthira Sukham Asana. Asana, this is one of the Yoga Sutras, explain what is an asana. And I already said before, but it's always good to remember. Sthira means that which doesn't move, that doesn't change. It means you're in one position, there is no change. It's like they shoot the movie and all the pictures are the same. There's no change. There's no movement of the fingers, no movement of the head, no movement of the shoulders, nothing. You're just set. But at the same time, it's a sukha. Sukha means easy, comfortable, relaxed. So you should be in a posture that you can be. First of all, you have to be straight to allow the energy to flow upwards into your brain and higher chakras, so you can remain awake and activate your higher levels of your mind, your deep concentration capacity. Otherwise, if you're like this, you're going to just fall asleep. So you need to maintain a straight position, but at the same time, you need to be completely relaxed and at ease. And this is really the mastery of the asanas. You achieve mastery of the asana when you can really find a very good sitting position. Then the next level you go into pranayama. Then now comes the, you can say, the real practice of Hatha Yoga, which is Ha and Ta, dealing with the two poles of the energy, dealing with the opposite forces in our pranic system. And this is like, the positive and electric poles of the electricity that create all the motion. So we have a constant agitation of the prana. The prana is always moving up and down, it's moving right and left, it's vibrating in an orderly way. And this is caused by past impressions, deep samskaras are there. We are born with already a disturbance in our astral body because of the past karmas. So then we have a lot of blockages there. And then we have to, first of all, remove the blockages of prana. You have to understand that to meditate, you need to have a high level of prana. So the mind needs prana, and the higher kind of thoughts correspond to higher levels of prana. For example, when you have low prana, you're very tired, then you cannot have very highly philosophical thoughts. You are either just sleeping, or you just think negatively. You see life in a more depressing way. You are depressed. Depression is a sign of very low level of prana. This go together, you see. Every emotional state, every mental state has a corresponding prana cause. So very low level of prana make you feel depressed, you have no capacity to think positively, to be happy, to be content. When you start increasing the level of your prana, you start feeling better. Your mood becomes better, you're more positive, you're more optimistic, you have more enthusiasm. And then your mind starts to have, you still have vrittis, you still have a lot of thoughts, but your thoughts become more, more towards the philosophical, spiritual thoughts. You start to see life in a positive way. And then the higher levels of prana allow you to think, to make the mind really subtle, to really think about the deeper philosophical topics. You need a high level of prana. So you start first of all by charging your prana, increasing the level of your prana. And then for that also you need to purify the nadis. You need to do different kind of breathing exercises that are going to help you to eliminate the obstructions in the nadis. So this agitation goes to the right and left, like I explained before, like a pendulum that is always pushing us either to one side or to the other side, and it never remains quiet. So after the purification of the nadis, which takes time, then the actual practice of Hatha Yoga begins, which is to balance and unite the Ha and the Ta. The Ha and the Ta, the sun and moon. You can say the yin yang, you can say, the heat and cold kind of energy. Everything is neutralized, so that the mind does not agitate anymore. When you neutralize these two forces, first of all, you have to balance those forces. When you balance those forces, you feel already in a state of a lot of peace. It's like your mind is very peaceful, you're very focused, but you're very relaxed at the same time. You see that the right nostril or the sun energy makes you be awake, makes you be here and now. But the moon energy allows you to relax. Allows you to just disconnect from the problems of worldly, anxiety and so on. So you can be in a state of deep rest, but at the same time being fully alert, fully awake. This is a state we are searching in Hatha Yoga. So you reach that by balancing your sun and moon energy. So you balance the sun and moon through asanas, because you reach this point of balance between your effort and your relaxation, your capacity to demand yourself, but at the same time to relax. Finally, when you achieve one asana, you are right in that state. And then by mastery over your nostrils and your two main nadis, Ida and Pingala, when you can really purify your nadis, they become even. See, normally there is an alternation, either your prana goes into the right or goes into the left. Either the sun is active, then the moon is active. So for about an hour and a half is an average cycle, that you have one nostril more open than the other. But the more you do the asanas and the different pranayamas, you will notice as you progress that both nostrils can remain more open for a longer period of time. Both nostrils. It means the two forces are starting to get even, start to get balanced. So that's the first stage. Then when there is even deeper purification of the nadis, then you have the possibility to unite these two energies, to just blend them together. So you push the prana, which moves up, you push it downwards to practice of bandhas and series of exercise. You push the apana up, which normally goes down, you reverse it, you push it up, so they flow towards each other and they will merge. And then the right and left side, also you neutralize, you push the right to the left and the left to the right, and they go against each other, they go towards each other, not against, towards. And then you unite right and left, low and top, up and down, everything becomes one. This union can happen only when there is complete purification of the nadis. As far as there is impurities in the nadis, this union does not happen. The union happens during the state of retention of the breath. They go together, you see, the breath and the prana goes together. As far as there is no union, there is inhalation and there is exhalation, there is right and there is left. When you start to unite these two forces, then there will be less inhalation and exhalation, less and less and less and less, until when the real union is complete, there is retention of the breath. So when we practice kumbhaka during the pranayama, what we're trying to do is to unite these two forces. See? Inhalation, exhalation, but then you have retention. But when you retain the breath, what happens? You hold it for 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then you have to continue breathing. You feel, otherwise you feel you drown. So you cannot, why is it that you cannot keep your breath still? Because there is still a lot of impurities in the nadis, And there is still a lot of agitation, in the mind and in the body. So first of all, the body has to be completely quiet and so relaxed that the metabolism is reduced. Then your need to breathe is much less. You see, if you are moving and and your mind is very active with external things, you will need to breathe because your brain needs oxygen and your muscles need oxygen. Otherwise, you will not survive. So first is you learn how to diminish the vital functions. Your heart goes very slow, your whole metabolism slows down, your muscles are so relaxed, and then the mind is not engaged in activities. Then you can really go deeper, and the breath becomes calmer and calmer. And if you have been working on the purification of the nadis, then at a certain point, by the proper Hatha Yoga techniques, which is a combination of pranayamas, bandhas, and mudras, then the union is happen. It happens, it's like you force a little bit the union. You push the prana towards the pana, so you retain the breath. But in the beginning, you retain the breath, and it's like unnatural. But still, it's like you are creating the push. You are training yourself to put the energy in that direction. But when the nadis become really, really purified, then there is the Sushumna nadi, this nadi that flows along your spinal cord from the base of the spine up to the top of your head. And this nadi normally is closed because the prana either goes to Ida and Pingala. So after long practice of pranayama and purification of the nadis and different kinds of pranayama, you will get to open the Sushumna nadi. When the Sushumna nadi is open, then a union can take place, and this united sun and moon energy enters into the Sushumna nadi. At that time, there will be no inhalation and no exhalation. And this is what is called Kevala Kumbhaka. So there are 3 types of Kumbhaka. One is that you inhale and hold your breath, like you've been practicing mostly this kind of retention. The other is that you exhale and you hold your breath without inhaling. And then there is the third kind, which is you neither inhale, neither exhale. It's like a suspension of the breath. Can you hear that both? Listen. It's chanting the Om. You see, when you're listening, paying full attention, you're not breathing. Did you notice that? Your breath stops. The stopping of the breath corresponds to a focused state of mind. The more focused your mind is, the more focused your breath is, the more quiet your breath is. The more agitated your mind, the more agitated your brain, and vice versa. Because the mind is controlled by the prana, if you learn how to really control your breath and tame your breath, because in the beginning the breath is like a wild horse, it goes wherever it wants. It just flows with emotions, But when you really learn to control that, and you can start to master how slow you inhale, how slow you exhale, how you control, then the mind becomes really one-pointed. And when this union happens between the sun and the moon, the mind literally remains completely still and quiet. The prana enters in the Sushumna, the vrittis become quiet. At that time, when the prana enters in the Sushumna, then starts the next step, which is pratyahara. See? Pratyahara means the withdrawal from the sense objects. You withdraw the senses from the sense objects. So you turn your senses inwards. And how this happens in Hatha Yoga is because your senses are, your prana goes to the senses, and therefore your senses are active and creating perception. But when you withdraw your prana to the Sushumna Nadi, then the Ida and Pingala become like dead wires with no electricity. Then there is no contact with the senses. Then you will not hear anything, you will not see anything, you will not smell anything. See? It will be just an internal kind of sight. You might see different things in your internal screen, so to say. You might hear different things, but internal, that has nothing to do with the external object of the senses. So this is the beginning of the practice of pratyahara. So you see, in Hatha Yoga, all these levels are reached by the control of the prana. First by controlling the body, then by controlling the prana. Then the further steps basically have to do with how long you can keep this prana in the Sushumna. Because even when you create that union, what happens is all your samskaras are still active there. You might have suppressed them for a moment, but after some time they tend to come up and your mind goes out again and your prana goes out of the Sushumna, and again the right and left starts, and again the engine starts on, and you start creating a whole movie in your mind, and you get caught into the maya again. Yeah? So this process has to be repeated and repeated and repeated until you create a powerful samskara of bringing the prana inwards instead of outwards. Because your habit has been to bring the prana outward for some long time, for so many years, for so many lives, that even if you are capable to gather it, it tends to go out again. But after repeated practice and practice and practice, then you create that samskara of bringing the prana inwards. And that samskara starts to destroy all the opposite samskaras. See, there is a teaching in yoga, pratipaksha bhavana, means you destroy one negative samskara by creating an opposite good one. So in yoga we want to bring the prana and the mind inwards and silent, but the previous samskara is the prana goes out and the mind goes wild. So, but by trying it again and again and again, then a new samskara is creating. Finally, when this samskara is strong enough, it overpowers the old samskara. And then the prana will start to remain in the Sushumna, and then the mind will remain in that introverted state. And then this is what you call the level of concentration. So because then there's no distraction, the mind is focused and you stay there and you stay there. But during the state of concentration or dharana, there is still a lot of effort required. It's like you are swimming against the current. You know? But with continued practice, by maintaining this more and more and more even, there is a moment where it just flows in that direction naturally. The prana remains in that state for some time, even without so much effort. It just goes naturally there. And that leads to the state of samadhi. When the prana is held in the Sushumna long enough, then eventually the mind, all the samskaras are burnt, and then the mind can remain into that state of non-dual experience. And this is the chitta vritti nirodha that the Raja Yoga speaks about, and this is the perfection in meditation. So you see, in the Hatha Yoga, it is achieved by the control of the prana. The focus is on the prana, and how you direct the prana, and how you maintain this prana concealed within this nadi. Then there is also, in this process of bringing the prana into Sushumna, once the Sushumna is free from impurities, then the Kundalini Shakti starts to awake, because the Kundalini is dormant, The Kundalini is nothing but the same power that creates the whole universe and manifests the material creation, and then it lies dormant. But this power really is wanting to go back. You see, like they talk in you see, Hatha Yoga is part of the what you call the tantric system, the Tantra philosophy. The philosophy of Tantra, and please don't get confused with the modern word of Tantra, which is normally associated with sex, and so it's not much to do with that. The whole Tantra philosophy is much deeper, and but it is represented as the male-female energy, and it's like the Shiva and Shakti, like these two cosmic principles. That then Shakti is like the wife of Shiva in the mythological way, but then Shakti separates from Shiva, and then it manifests the whole material universe. And then we are caught in this material level. So when your Kundalini is dormant, you only experience the material reality. Your mind is completely extroverted, and you just believe whatever your senses are experiencing to be the reality, and that's it. You cannot experience other thing than that, and you are caught, you are bound into that state of mind. And then because the Sushumna is blocked by so many past samskaras and impurities, karmas, created by karmas, blocked our Sushumna, then the Kundalini doesn't have the capacity to return, to this original state. Therefore, you feel you are in world, you are in the life, and something is missing. And you just try to find happiness through the contact with the senses. And you always fail. You find a little bit of pleasure and then a lot of pain. Because the more you activate your senses, the more you will feel the pressure, but the more you will feel the pain also. But once the Sushumna is purified, and all these obstructions are removed, then the Kundalini really can start to awake and enter into the Sushumna, and then it begins a journey of return to Shiva. So Kundalini basically is the power of your mind, the higher power of your mind, you can say the divine power that dwells within yourself, that is dormant and becomes awakened. Then your consciousness starts to move into higher and higher levels. It's like you awake. You awake. You see, this waking state that we call, according to yogis, is not very different from a dream. You see, our experience on this sensory world is just like a dream. It's an unreal reality, so to say. It's not a reality. It's an appearance. It's an appearance. It's like a superimposition. Those who study Vedanta, Adhyarupa, we are seeing something that it seems very real, but in fact it's not what we see that is real. But when the Kundalini starts to rise, then the mind starts to awake into higher and higher levels of consciousness. First, it will go to all the different lokas, the different planes, the different heavenly realms, you can say. I will get to experience all those levels. So this is still within the realm of Boga. You still, in a dualistic state of mind, but eventually when the Kundalini reaches the Sahasrara chakra and can become one with Shiva, then it goes beyond even the whole creation. And then after having experienced the creation in all levels, in all lokas, in all levels, then the final renunciation is there, the withdrawal of the mind completely from the experience of duality and becoming one with Shiva, one with the consciousness. So the mind becomes one with the consciousness, and this is the highest state of samadhi. Even when the Kundalini reaches the Sahasrara, it does not stay there in the beginning. You might reach there, and first of all, it's very difficult to reach it there. But even if you reach there, it does not stay for a long time, it will go down. and again you have to bring it up, and again it will go down. So like that, sadhana has to go on for so long until eventually he can be on that state. And then once the yogi gets that accomplishment, he even has the capacity to bring it down and up as he wants. So he can bring it down and operate in the material world, and then he can sit and meditate and be in samadhi in a moment. And even when he's in the physical world, he has mastery over the senses, he has mastery over the elements, and is not bound by them. So this is in the Hatha Yoga what the aspiration is, what the goal is. So it's achieved through step-by-step control over the prana, the internal energies, the internal Shakti, and this is also controlling the mind. So some people have wrong ideas about Kundalini and chakras and so. I had, some time is getting short, okay, I have to stop very soon. But just because I spoke about Kundalini, I want to mention that, I had sometimes students that come to me and tell me, they have very little practice, but they come and tell me, I think my Kundalini has reached the Sahasrara chakra, but because, I feel so in love and, but I cannot take it higher. Usually they have a lot of wrong understanding of what the Kundalini and the chakras are. Even you have to see just to bring the prana into the Sushumna, you enter into the Pratyahara state. You forget the external world, When the prana is into the Sushumna, even if you get somebody put a needle on your body, you don't feel it. You might even get burned and you don't feel it. There's a complete disconnection because all the prana gets out of Idam Pingala and all the other nadis become just like wires that have no electricity. So you have to study a lot to understand what is really the Kundalini and the chakras, and don't take all these New Age books about, sometimes I see people say they offered a chakra alignment. So you go to a session, they align your chakras, they awake your Kundalini, do a kind of massage, and then you're supposed to get out with all your chakras awaken and balance. It doesn't work like that. This is wishful thinking, but it's more the New Age mentality, and there's a lot of books there that are really deceiving. All this modern literature, there are a few which are really good, a few serious students of the topic, but you have to study, always go back to the classicals, to the classic scriptures to understand really what's Kundalini about. One of these modern yoga masters has this idea that the Kundalini is a kind of muscular tension that we keep in our area of the very lower back, and once you release that tension, then you become so relaxed and you feel so good. That's the awakening of the Kundalini. They think it's a kind of muscular tension there. So they think that you're going to wake your Kundalini just by stretching your hip in a certain way and putting your spine in a certain way, and so it doesn't work like that. There is all the process of purification of the nadis and activating of the Sushumna and so. Then all your ideas about Kundalini are just fantasies, basically. And even if you have a Kundalini awakening, let's say spontaneously for any reason, unless you have been practicing and purifying your nadis and your mind, it's going to be a very negative experience. Because it's going to create a lot of disturbance in your nervous system, in your brain, and in your physical body. And it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Only if you are following the step-by-step process, and each step takes several years of practice. And then you're purifying the nadis, you're creating the sattva in your mind, you're opening the Sushumna and all this. Then the Kundalini will start to flow in a way that is going to take you into a higher state of consciousness. It's like a stairway to heaven, you can say, and beyond. But other ways, the Kundalini will go into the wrong paths, will flow in and if your mind is not pure, it's just going to activate all the negativity in your mind. Whatever negative samskaras are there, going to become activated or agitated by the Kundalini, and you're going to enter into a undesirable state. So for this sadhana, a teacher is needed, and those practices of Hatha Yoga are done in seclusion. There is two levels of practice of Hatha Yoga. One level you can practice in daily life. There is another level that you have to go into seclusion, under the guidance of a teacher, because the only way to create that samskara of bringing the mind and prana inwards is you have to be doing it the whole day. So you cannot just try to bring the prana to Sushumna and then you go shopping to the supermarket, Then everything that you practice, you lose it in a little time. So you remain in seclusion, you accumulate prana, you create a powerful introspective samskara, free of all distractions and so free of any impurities or influence from other minds, because even when you mix with the society, even if you have a kind of positive state of mind, you mix, all the other people's minds are going to affect your own mind. Is the opposite that satsanga is called kusanga. It's a wrong association. You associate with people who have the opposite tendencies. They keep feeding the senses, the mind going toward the senses. They live for that. Then just by being in this environment, you try to go the other way. It's almost impossible. So you need to be first in satsang. So you move from kusanga into satsanga, and then you move from satsanga into nissanga. Nissanga means no company. You remain alone. So the deepest level of practice, you have to be alone. So the yogi is going to retreat and remain in a small cottage or in a cave or somewhere. Try not to see anybody, not to talk to anybody. Then they can do deep levels of practice. That was a traditional way. Of course, this very advanced level, you have many stages to accomplish before that. So we have to conclude, and tomorrow morning I'll continue with the topic. Announcement?